wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ladies and gentlemen, al-muslimin wal muslimat, bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu sekalian, welcome to the series discussions of Jumah discussion. We usually have a Jumah Friday seminar after Jum'ah, but because of the time lag, we conducted this series meeting and Jum'ah in the night, in the evening. Welcome, Mr. Suaib Ahmad Malik, our speaker, as well also Mr. Nurudin Al-Akbar. Are you here, Nurudin? Can I hear you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This event will be aired on live through Center for Islamic Studies YouTube. And thank you for all the participants who coming to this room, and welcome with the discussion. First allow me to introduce our speaker. The first speaker will be Suaib Ahmad Malik. He is a professor at Jayed University in Dubai, and he is one of the best author of Islam and evolution. I see that this is a timely, to answer, even though we have a long time to wait. What is the answer for Islam and evolution position in the Islamic scholarship and thinking. This is also a classical, matter that we should also understand what the realities that people perceive right now, because I'm Fachruddin Mangunjaya, and I'm chairman Center of Islamic Studies as well. I'm as professor, associate lecturer at National University. I teach biology as well, evolution. This is why this topic is very timely, and I would like to know also to understand more regarding the study. The book Islam and Evolution is awarded this year as best book in the study of the Society of Science and Religious Study. Yeah, Saib. We congratulate Saib for his best study. I think his effort in exploring the study of Islamic perspective on evolution is timely now. I don't want to take more time. I just give time to Suaib Ahmad Malik to present his time. We have 1.5 hours discussion, and Suaib can present maybe 25 minutes and to 20 to 25 minutes, and the other will be Mr. Nurudin and with his commentary. The formal language of this discussion will be two, English and Bahasa, as well the Malay. We can translate it back and forth. Thank you, Malik. Suaib, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Sidi. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Fachruddin and the rest of the team for inviting me for this event and for allowing me to share my perspective on this topic. So I had a presentation slide, which I'm not sure if I can cover in 25 minutes. but what I'll do is I'll try and cover the main points that I think will be relevant for the conversation. So this is something that I can share with you, inshallah. But the main thing for me from today's point is just to kind of explain what the theory of evolution is. Because when I use the word evolution, people may understand it differently. One person may think evolution may mean atheism. Another person thinks evolution means just normal change. But in biology, it means something very specific. So we'll just kind of briefly cover that. And then once we cover that, I'll go over the different kinds of opinions that Muslims have developed. And I'll leave it there so that hopefully we can have a conversation, inshallah. I would like to raise just a few points in the beginning that evolution is rightfully a very sensitive conversation. Evolution challenges a lot of Muslim beliefs, sometimes due to misconceptions, sometimes because it's a new theory. Muslims have never encountered a theory like evolution before. So it's a very new idea, and naturally people will be very sensitive, very defensive about this conversation. My job is not to convince you about what you should make of the theory. What I'm hopefully trying to do here is just try to make this conversation as accessible and as simple as possible, inshallah. So to begin with, the theory of evolution, at least the way I explain it to a variety of different audiences that I think make sense, are the following three principles. If you understand these principles, you understand evolution. At least this is what you need to know to see exactly how it may or may not conflict with Islam. So the first principle is known as deep time. Deep time is this very simple idea that the earth is much older than we anticipated. A few thousand years ago, at least, Christians and Jews, a lot of them believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old. With developments in science, particularly radioactivity, we now have strong estimates and inferences that the earth is much, much older than 6,000 years. It is in fact about 4.6 billion years old, which is incredibly long, many, many magnitudes older. And that's the first principle of evolution, that the earth is significantly older than 6,000 years old. It's actually 4.6 at the moment. The universe is around 14 billion years old. So that's the first thing. The second concept underneath evolution is this idea of common ancestry, salaf al-mushtarak. And this is a very simple point. So all of us here, we have a mother and father. Our mothers and fathers, they have their mothers and fathers, and they have their mothers and fathers, and you keep going back and back and back. And if we record all of this onto a diagram, we get a family tree. We can put these decorations in our house. We have them in our phones. So that's what a family tree is. Evolution says the same thing. But instead of talking about individuals, it says that entire species, cats, lions, dogs, humans, monkeys, dinosaurs, plants, all of us are related in a massive, historically connected tree of life. And this is a visual where you can see this tree of life. Now, I want to clarify 2 points here. There is an important distinction between the origin of life, asl al-haya, and the origins of species, usul al-anwa'. Evolution talks about how different species emerge. Evolution does not talk about the origin of life. So if we come back to this diagram, the origin of life is the study of how did the first life form start? How did that first protein or the first cellular mechanism start? This is not the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution assumes this happened, but it does not explain the origin of life. What evolution does explain is everything after that. How did different species come about? So this is a very important distinction to make, that evolution is about the origins of species. It is not about the origins of life. So that's the second principle. So the first was deep time. The earth is really old. The second is common ancestry, where everything in biology is interconnected. All these species are a product of natural processes. Now, so we've understood what evolution is, and we've understood how long it takes, but how does it occur? What are the processes? According to Neo-Darwinism, which is Charles Darwin's theory with an extension, there are two main processes that drive the process of evolution. The first one is called random mutations. So in very simple terms, all of us, every single one of us, humans, all the other animals and plants that exist, all of us have a fundamental thing inside us called the DNA. The DNA is a blueprint. It codes all our personalities. So there's a DNA inside of me that shows that I should have black hair. There's a DNA inside of me that shows I should have facial hair. There's a DNA inside of me that shows I should have a specific type of skin color, right? Very simple terms. Now, when a husband and a mother procreate, when they are intimate with one another, and when they have children, these genetics, these genes, these DNA combinations cross over. They combine with one another. Sometimes the DNA of the mother crosses over, sometimes the DNA, half of the DNA of the father comes over. And depending on how they mix, the children will differ. Sometimes the children will have the hair color of the mother. Sometimes it will have the hair color of the father. Sometimes it will have a hair color of neither. All of these are based on mutations that are happening when these genes combine. These are called mutations. And the reason why we say that they are random mutations is simply because when this process occurs, when a mother and father procreate and are intimate, we cannot predict with certainty which genes are going to combine. It's by chance. We don't know. That's the only thing we mean by random mutations. So we talk about these things in terms of percentages. You could have this, you could have that, but not with absolute accuracy, not with absolute with full knowledge of the process. So this is what we mean by mutations. Mutations occurring at the genetic level. The second process of evolution is known as natural selection. And this is a very simple concept. So it's explained through this drawing. On the left-hand side, so this picture right here, you have an eagle that is eating mice in a specific area. You have black mice and white mice. The black mice are camouflaged. They can hide in the area very well, so the eagle cannot see them. But the white mice are clearly visible, so they cannot hide as well. Now the eagle, which is hungry, when it wants its food, it's going to see the white mice way more clearly. So over time, the population, the number of white mice disappears. And so eventually, as this process goes along, because having the black color improves survivability, the number of black mice increase because they are fit to the environment. It benefits them to have this characteristic in the environment that they're in. So if you are adapting to the environment, if you can adapt to the system around you, then that is simply called natural selection, where if you have a number of species in a given environment, if they adapt to that, that nature will select what is and isn't going to go through. If species adapt, they live on. If species cannot adapt, they eventually die off. And this is natural selection. So when you combine all of these three principles together, this is what makes evolution. Number one, deep time, that the earth is really, really old. Number two, common ancestry, that every single thing is connected in a common ancestry, in like a family tree network, and human beings are no exception. Human beings are part of this process according to the evolution. And finally, the principles are random mutation, which is based on mutations of the genes. And then the second part is natural selection, where if you put species in an environment, those that can adapt to that will be selected by nature to live on, and those that cannot will eventually die off. This is as simple as we need to get with the science of evolution. We can get into more detail, but that is not relevant for the sake of the theological question. From an Islamic point, what exactly is the issue. Now, I'd like to go over one more point about the science of evolution, because in relation to human beings. So, as I said earlier, we believe that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. And human beings, they have ancestry with modern day chimpanzees, according to the theory of evolution. Human beings and chimpanzees, they had a common ancestor about 7 million years ago. So you can see the 7 million years ago there. And when that split occurred, when those lineages diverted, there were many ashbah al-bashar, many kind of hominins or human-like entities that proceeded before humans today. So the biological term for human beings today is known as Homo sapiens. According to the theory of evolution, Homo sapiens appeared on Earth about 200,000 years ago. Before that, we had several other things. We had Homo heidelbergensis, erectus, Homo habilis. These are entities, if I put their skulls in front of you, you will not be able to tell what's the difference between human and non-human. They're all the same. They're all the same. And so one of the ways we know that we are genetically connected with chimpanzees is we've been able to trace the genetic material of both the chimpanzee and the human being. What we noted was that in the chimpanzee, so the chimpanzee has 24 chromosomes. These are just genetic materials. And the two parts in the chimpanzee fused together. They combined together and it made this chromosome number 2. That gives us very strong evidence that we, as in human beings today, and chimpanzees share ancestry. In addition to that, when they calculated the similarities between them, there is 96% similarity, 96%. This is not a small number. This is a significant number. Like I said, I don't want to go into detail, but that's very important to note. In addition to that, there's some very interesting evidence called endogenous retroviruses. In very simple terms, endogenous retroviruses are viruses that can structurally affect your DNA. So if I have an ERV, an endogenous retrovirus, it will affect my DNA. And whatever it changed in my DNA, it will be passed on to my son, to my grandson, to my grandson. It will be passed on to the entire lineage. Human beings and chimpanzees have several DNA changes because of viruses, which shows furthermore that there is very strong genetic similarity, very, very strong genetic similarity. Because if our ancestors had this virus change, and then it made its way to both the chimpanzee and the human being, this shows us evidence that we are connected through common ancestry. So that's it for the science of evolution. I'll now quickly go over what are the different opinions about evolution. And this is where I'll summarize this here. So when I looked at the literature out there, there were many different positions, and it was hard to understand how do you classify them? How do you arrange these into a sensible taxonomy? Eventually, I came up with this way of systematizing the conversation. There are 3 questions that I ask. What do you believe is and isn't part of common ancestry? In other words, what do you believe is and isn't part of evolution? Non-humans, humans, and Adam and Eve. Those are the 3 questions. Creationism is the position which believes that evolution in its entirety is false. Evolution is entirely false. So non-humans were created directly. Humans were created directly by God. There's no common ancestry. There's no family tree, nothing. That's why there are X's there. The 4th position at the bottom is no exceptions. This is a very simple, this is the complete opposite of creationism. The no exceptions position says that evolution is true for everything. That everything was created through the process of natural selection, random mutation. And even Adam and Eve had a mother and father. Even Adam and Eve had a mother and father. In between those, we have two positions. Human exceptionalism is the position which says that evolution is true for everything. Evolution is true for everything, except for human beings. Why do they believe this? Because in the Quran and Hadith, it is believed that Adam was created miraculously, Eve was created miraculously, and all of us are their children. All of us are their children. And therefore, this contradicts evolution. So evolution can be true for everything. It can be true for all the animals. It can be true for all the plants, but not human beings. We are special. We are distinct. That's why there's an X here and there's an X here. So if you want to see a picture, this is a picture here. You just need to focus on this last diagram. So again, this is the theory of evolution. Over the past 2 million years, we have several ashbah al-bashar. And Adam alayhi salam, whenever he was created miraculously. He was created magically. And so he does not connect to anything before him. When Adam alayhi salam was created, his his lineage start. And we are the products of that lineage. This is human exceptionalism. The third position is known as Adamic Exceptionism. This position says that we can believe the theory of evolution, no problem, but we do not accept that Adam and Eve had a mother and father, because the nusus, the scripture is crystal clear. It's very clear about that. But the nusus, scripture, does not say when Adam and salam was created. We have no clue. From a scriptural standpoint, we have no clue when he was created. Wallahu a'lam. The second point is, we don't know what was around him when he created. The Quran doesn't talk about ashbah al-bashar, neither does it negate ashbah al-bashar. There could have been, there could not have been. Wallahu a'lam. The Quran is also silent about the idea if some of Adam's children in his nasb married or interbred with these entities. It's possible, it's also not possible. So this is the picture here. If you look at the right-hand side, those circles represent Adam alayhi salam's miraculous creation. We don't know when he was created. We have no clue. It could have been 10,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 500,000 years ago, 1 million years ago. We don't know. We have zero clue. No clue. So we have no commitment there. And because he was created miraculously, fine, but the nasb of Adam alayhi salam could have interbred with other entities that were coexisting. We in fact have evidence from evolutionary biology that human beings and another group called the Neanderthals interbred. We have genetic similarities with them. Some of us carry Neanderthal genes within us. In fact, those that carry the Neanderthal genes in them, they were more affected by COVID. They had harder effects of COVID. This is what the studies say about COVID, that if you had Neanderthal genes, you were more susceptible to COVID. So these differences in our DNA reveal very interesting insights that perhaps there was interbreeding. And even if there was interbreeding, it does not contradict anything in nusus, nothing whatsoever. So these are the four positions that were discussed in my book. So creationism, the idea that all species were created miraculously. No exceptions is the idea that everything was created through evolution, including Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam. Human exceptionism says that evolution is true except for human beings. Adamic exceptionism says that we can believe that Adam and Eve were miracles, but that doesn't mean that Adam's descendants did not interbreed with others. It's possible. Film can. It's in the realm of possibility. Wallahu a'lam. And so when I approach this question about whether this is compatible with Islam or not, for me, there are only two questions that are important. The first question is it metaphysically possible? Is it jaiz aqlan? Because when we look at this theologically, we have to understand this from the understanding of Allah's qudra. Can Allah do this, yes or no? Is it metaphysically possible? And the paradigm that I adopt to understand this question is the Ash'ari paradigm. I adopt Imam Ghazali's framework. I interpret him as an Ash'ari. And then using that, I then engage this exercise. So Is it metaphysically possible that Allah can create us through creationism? Yes. Is it possible that Allah can create us through human exceptionism? Yes. And is it possible that Allah can create us through Adamic exceptionism? Yes. And is it possible that He can create us through no exceptions? Yes. From Allah's qudra, He can do any of these possibilities, anything that He wants. There is no problem from this from a theological angle. Now, why is this important? Because many people assume that evolution is an atheistic paradigm, which is not the case. Evolution can be put into an atheistic worldview, but it can also be put in a theistic worldview. It can be done in both. We believe that Allah is wajib al-wujud. He is the necessary being, and everything that is fil imkan can be returned back to necessary being. I'm shortening a long conversation here. That's why I recommend you read the book. But the key point here in basic Ash'ari theology, the wajib al-wujud can make all of these possible. It is in His power to do so. God can actualize any of these possibilities. Right. Now that we've moved on, the next question to ask is this scripturally compatible? Is it scripturally compatible? So again, long story short, Imam Ghazali has his usul, which I don't want to go through. But the main thing to take away from this is that if something is zahir, you read it as zahir. You don't do ta'wil. If something is apparent in the text, you read it as it is. But Imam Ghazali also indicates that if something is not mentioned in scripture, you cannot make it a point of aqidah. You cannot make it a point of creed. It's impossible. So given his usul, I am committed as an Ash'ari thinker that Adam alayhi salam was a real person. The reason why I say this is because some people believe that Adam alayhi salam is majazi. He's just a figurative thinker. I don't believe that. I believe that Adam alayhi salam is a real person. I also believe that Eve alayhi salam is a real person. I also believe both of them were created miraculously. And I believe all of us, all insan today, are the children of Adam and Eve, hands down. But what I'm not committed to believing scripturally is when Adam alayhi salam and Eve alayhi salam existed, because we don't have any scriptural reference. What coexisted? Could there have been ashbah al-bashar? Could there have been other entities that their descendants were intimate with? We don't know. So because we don't know when he existed, what coexisted, and what interactions took place, we say, Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. Given that, is creationism compatible with scripture? Yes. Creationism is absolutely possible. Is human exceptionism possible? Yes. There's no problem. Is Adamic exceptionism possible? Yes, that's also possible. But what is not possible, according to me, is the no exceptions position. I am committed to believing in miracles. I believe that miracles happen. I don't believe that just because science says there's no miracles, the miracles don't happen. I believe science is one way of explaining things. It's not the absolute way of explaining things. And I believe that the theological paradigm is as important in science. So in short, this is my conclusion from my exploration. And I'm very sorry if I kept this straight and simple. It's only because I wanted to keep within the time limit. But this is my conclusion. Metaphysically, all possibilities are there according to Allah's qudra. According to scripture, all possibilities are available except for the no exceptions camp. So for me, this is no longer an atheism-theism problem anymore. I don't believe that's the case. I believe it's just now a matter of Muslims to decide what position they're more comfortable with. If they don't want to believe in evolution, khalas, be a creationist, no problem. If you want to be an evolutionist, be a human or an Adamic exceptionist. And that's the end of the conversation. I hope that was clear. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'll hand it over back to Brother Fachruddin. Thank you very much, Sidi.
Thank you very much. That's enlightening for the evolution study and very short discourses on your exploration. One thing, if I can extend a little bit, the question regarding the existence of Adam. So it's likely that the how do you call the after Neanderthal They are missing link that we can say. Can you explain about that? Why you then put, white dot on that, and it's likely to explain the missing link also?
So for which position were you asking? Was it human or Adamic exceptionism?
Human, the human one, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. So the people who adopt the human exceptionalism position, the way they kind of say that you can still believe in evolution is as follows. What they say is evolution was occurring. So imagine you have these ashbah al-bashar, they're evolving, they're evolving, they're evolving. Okay. Now, at the moment when evolution was supposed to bring out human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created Adam at that moment. He created Adam at that moment. And therefore, after that, Homo sapiens started and the rest died. All the others died off. This is what human exceptionism says. So from a scientific perspective, when you look at the evidence, when you look at the fossil record, when you dig out the skulls, when you do the genetic analysis, it looks like evolution is occurring perfectly. Absolutely no problem. This is what they believe. But from the theological perspective, we know a miracle occurred because the nusus says so. So from a scientific viewpoint, which does not believe in miracles, from a scientific perspective, it's absolutely fine because science does not operate with miracles. So when you look at it scientifically, there is absolutely continuity, no problem. This is the same way science cannot prove or disprove the miracle of Ibrahim alayhi salam when he went to the fire. Science cannot prove or disprove the sea splitting of Musa alayhi salam. These are events that are outside of scientific explanation that happened in the past. So if evolution occurred, Adam alayhi salam came down with all the right biological properties, with all the right genetics, with all the right physiology. And scientifically, when you look at it, it looks perfect. From a theological angle, however, which allows miracles, we have no problem believing that this was a miracle and the nesp of human beings started from him. That's the way they reconcile it. That's how they combine it.
Okay. If I might a little bit explain, so 5 minutes perhaps for the audience in bahasa, that Said menjelaskan tentang teori evolusi, tentang apa yang sudah dilakukan, diterima oleh dunia modern tentang adanya evolusi, terjadinya spesiasi, kemudian tadi dijelaskan bahwa ini dalam jangka yang sangat panjang. Bumi saja diciptakan 4,6 miliar ya, 4,6 miliar tahun. Kemudian universe itu 14 miliar tahun, 14 billion. Jadi kalau manusia itu menurut teori evolusi ratusan juta tahun yang Neanderthal, kemudian yang mirip dengan manusia ya. Kemudian tadi Sueb menyimpulkan beberapa opsi berkaitan dengan bagaimana kita harus menyikapi keberadaan manusia ya, terutama ya. Ada yang menyatakan bahwa ya oke untuk makhluk-makhluk lain tapi tidak manusia, karena manusia itu sebenarnya dia mukjizat dari Tuhan. Ada juga yang menerima bahwa semuanya ya mukjizat gitu. Tapi evolusi ini kan menemukan fakta-fakta dia di lapangan, dan evolusi ini teorinya terus berkembang dan sampai sekarang masih diajarkan. Itu Sueb mengajar di Dubai University karena dia juga memetakan dengan pemahaman kita terhadap kehidupan sebenarnya. Nah, kita kemarin contohnya COVID itu, kenapa kemudian ada mutasi dan sebagainya, itu karena kita paham evolusi. Kemudian ada mutasi, ada variabilitas, kemudian gen kita dirubah, mereka beradaptasi dengan gen orang Afrika, dengan orang Asia, berbeda-beda lagi warnanya itu di dalam DNA, RNA-nya itu. Kemudian dari situlah kita bisa mendapatkan vaksinasi dan sebagainya. Gitu karena pemahaman evolusi yang modern. Jadi sebenarnya kalau di dalam teori evolusi Darwin, mereka melakukan observasi secara makro, melihat perbedaan-perbedaan. Oh, itu kok ada kesamaan gitu. Tetapi secara genetik mikro, mikro ini DNA kesamaannya seperti halnya antara manusia dengan simpansi itu kita sharing gennya itu sama 96%. Orang-utan juga sama saya kira. I'm talking about the orangutan. They have similar DNA as 93% of 96% as well. So ini sangat penting untuk pengetahuan manusia, tetapi kita tidak mesti juga mempercayai bahwa manusia berasal dari ancestor yang sama, tapi di situ tadi ada meloncat ya, karena kita berpahaman bahwa ada mukjizat yang diberikan khusus untuk Adam, kemudian tetapi ada juga beranggapan Adam mukjizat, tetapi dia bisa kawin dengan manusia yang evolusi itu, Neanderthal dan lain-lain. Nanti Nurudin akan menjelaskan itu. Dan sebenarnya ilmuwan Islam sebelum adanya Darwin dan sebagainya juga menjelaskan hal yang sama dengan pengamatan yang tajam seperti Ar-Raji, Ikhwanus Safa dan lain-lain. Silakan Dr. Nurudin Al-Akbar, beliau dari Gajah Mada dan pengamat filsafat dan juga sedang menyelesaikan pasca sarjana beliau di Universitas Gajah Mada. Bung Nurdin, silakan. Bahasa or
terima kasih Pak Fachruddin Mangunjaya, and nice to see you, Prof. Suaib Ahmad Malik. Yeah, I think you have written a very great and wonderful book. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I will share screen ya, Pak Fachruddin.
Ya, silakan. Sudah Zoom ya. Oke.
Kelihatan Pak Fachruddin?
Sudah.
Yes. Thank you. I think because limitation of time, I will not discuss. This is a point of discussion about the introduction toward the definition of evolution. Maybe if Professor Suaib Ahmad Malik more interesting in the discussion about the issue of theology, especially as archaeology, maybe I have more interesting in the study of the scientific issue within the theory of evolution, but maybe we can discuss it at a brief time, yeah, because of the limitation. The first about evolution and religion, and I give an atheist, because I think that evolution is not the issue of Muslim or non-Muslim, but also for atheists also. Not only Richard Dawkins and Four Horsemen of Evolution, but I think this is become an issue of secular scientists also. Yeah. I start my presentation with I want to summary the book by Professor Malik. Yeah. I think there's two great idea in his book. Yeah. The first about the clearing misconception about evolution, and and another idea is about the Islam and evolution dialogue. Yeah. I think there's three main idea about misconception about evolution. The first is, according to Professor Malik, evolution is a valid scientific theory about biological origin. In his presentation, he talking about evolution is not about the chemical evolution. It is different, but in his book he tried to explain that evolution is valid, and evolution is not the same as atheism, like presented by Richard Dawkins and other friend. Yeah. and he want to explain about the differentiation between Darwin and other evolutionists. For example, Lamarck, he says that this is different because Lamarck believed that there's some kind of elan vital that can become a source of energy for evolution. Darwin does not believe in such elan vital. And the second part is he talking about he has explained in the presentation about the different Muslim view on evolution, and how far can Ghazali and Ash'ari framework can accommodate the theory of evolution. And I think Prof. Malik has explained in his presentation that Ghazali Ash'ari framework can accept a full narrative of evolution, but provide theological space for other belief ranging from creationism, human exceptionalism, and Adamic exceptionalism. But he is also explained that in last chapter, I think if we look from lens of Al-Ghazali framework, we can accept creationism, human exceptionalism, Adam exceptionalism, but not with no exception. So here we know that Prof. Malik is not scientism like like Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett, and we believe in real Adam. We believe real Eve, not a symbol. It is interesting. And I think Prof. Malik also give explanation that in discussing the issue of evolution, there's a complexity of the landscape. It can be very confusing, difficult, and at times hostile. I think this is important message he want to convey to the public in his book. This is might be my question to Prof. Malik. I think he has explained in his lecture, but I want to know maybe what is this idea more further. My first question is about if evolution is a valid scientific theory, and then what about the status of Muslim who choose not to be non-exceptionalism? Maybe creationism, human exceptionalism, and Adamic exceptionalism. Yes, he has explained that we don't we don't accept the metaphysical materialistic framework, but how can the creationist Muslim or human exceptionalist Muslim or Adamic exceptionalist Muslim can dialogue with the scientific community if they choose to not accept all narrative of Darwinism? I think I want to know how, according to Prof. Malik, how we can discuss. I don't believe how we can, because he also says that the scientific community does not accept miracle. So how to make a sound dialogue and that they can convince about our position. Because I believe that if we choose not to be non-exceptionalism, does it mean that we can labeled as unscientific person and so on? And my second question is about Adamic Exceptionalism, who believe that there's another human population that exists as a result of evolutionary process. Can we say that the current human population to be 100% Adam descendant, or maybe it's a mixture of descendant of Adam and evolutionary human, or maybe I don't know if there's any Muslim who believe that the possibility of Adam descendant become extinct and we do have no biological relationship with Adam. In his book, I know that Prof. Malik, and in his lecture, he also says that this is the issue of tawakuf. Yeah, we don't know, but as a person who want to make a dialogue between religion and science, I want to know his personal opinion. What Prof. Malik think. Yeah? Maybe it is possible that we are mixture, or maybe Adam descendant is extinct, or maybe all non-Adam descendant has extinct. I don't know. I want his personal opinion on that issue. I think this is interesting in the field of theology. This is also interesting quote from his book about I think that the evolution is not the only issue of the Muslim, but also for non-Muslim, and I think not only non-Muslim, even atheists, not like Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett, but atheists at general. Especially in the discussion about the scientific side of evolution, not the theological implication. Now, I think that we can say that maybe Islam and evolution are not conflictual. We can make a negotiation, but I think that one of the problem, many texts, not only biological texts, I think, but for example, this is from the historical text, from the book Wood Together and Wood Apart, who frame the idea of evolution against religion. So I think it's not only four horsemen of atheism, but I think there's many textbooks that have such spirit. So, for example, the origin of the universe dates back some 50 million years, and the hominid perished from African Pongit. These discoveries have proved as mind-boggling to Hindus and Muslims as to Christians and Jews, all of whom believe in different ways in a creationist account of humanity origin. So we know that from the tone of this book is they want to say that the all religion who believe in creationism account is obsolete. They are some kind of myth. So I think this narrative not only present in the book of by the Four Horsemen, but in textbooks, and I think this is a problem because the people presented that the religion and evolution can be can be reconciliated. This is the choice. You believe in myth or you believe in science. It's like that. Yeah. Modern discoveries about human origin have also challenged older major cultural tradition, because no tradition conceive that creatures evolve into new kind of life. Yeah. I think the text is. I can see the text. Yeah. Yes. But the point is, there's many book like that I think this is problematic, because if we using Prof. Su'aib Ahmad Malik argument, this narration will make the negative feeling about evolution, or scientific or scientist negative feeling about religion as old myth. We must remove from our society. I think the text is talking about that. And in the text of biology, I think the tone is more softer, but we can still see the spirit of conflict 12 between religion and science. For example, long before Darwin, I think. The idea coincident with Old Testament account of creation with that species were individually designed by God and therefore perfect. And so the book presented the creation or religious belief is some kind of old belief, that myth that must be discarded. Yeah. And I think, radical departure from the prevailing view of Western culture. I think like the textbooks like Campbell and Rees. Yeah, I think if the spirit is, I think, is more milder, more smooth than the previous book. But I think the spirit is still the same. And if we still using book like this, I think the room for dialogue, I think, is very limited, because religion solid. But I think not only the theory of evolution presented as against all religion, not only Islam, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, and but I think it is important for us to note that evolution become some secular scientists, or I will say atheists, because like people like Jerry Fodor and Massimo Piattelli, Palmarini, he described themselves as atheists, also believe that we must discuss again the theory of evolution. So I says that this is from scientific side of evolution, not from theological. Because if theological, the atheists can come to this discussion, I think. So I think if we want to enlarge the discussion about evolution, I think not only from theological side, I think it's important, but the scientific side, I think, is important also, because we can enlarge our discussion including atheists. And now, if we look at this book, Jerry Fodor and Massimo, we can say that according to author, allegiance to Darwinism has become a litmus for deciding who does and who does not hold properly scientific worldview. You must choose between faith in God and faith in Darwin, and if you want to be a secular humanist, you'd better choose the latter. Nah. So I think some atheists also feel that the discussion about evolution is not conducive. Yeah, they want a more open space for discussion about evolution, so they can offer their argument about what can how can be reread Darwin, or we can challenge some of the theory inside it, but according to them is not conducive. So I think not only for religion, but for at least the today condition of discussion, I think is not conducive though. So the point that I want to raise here is that in the discussion about a scientific side of Darwinism, we can collaborate with non-Muslim or atheists to make more conducive space for talking about evolution. This is not the ideological discussion. So we must discuss it with enjoy environment, not oppressive and not intimidative. Yeah. I think that's the important point.
Okay, Pak Nurudin, your time is.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
I think I will stop my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment, Pak Nurudin. Soeb, if you have anything to comment, or if the audience would like to ask, you can write in the chat room, or either you can speak yourself, but time is limited, so you can be straight to the question. Soeb, your comment, please.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Brother Nurudin, for your presentation and your contribution. I was wondering, can you please share that presentation slide again, the one where you had 2 arrows and a question? Because I forgot the details of those questions, and I was going to respond to those.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see that. So here you asked that the people who believe in the exceptionalism, so creationism, human or Adamic, are they unscientific? My point is that to claim something to be unscientific, it can mean one of 2 things. You can say that either they're rejecting science, or they're believing in things that are outside of the domain of science. Both of these meanings are applicable. As I said earlier, science cannot prove or disprove if a miracle occurred. It's not in its capacity. Science studies regularities in nature. So if an irregularity occurred, miraculously speaking, if a miracle occurred, it would not be able to detect it. It is beyond its borders. This is not to say that we reject science, but it's to say that we have to understand the presumptions of science. Every framework has a domain and a scope to which you apply it to. I can study using scientific methods, trees, plants, the universe, whatever have you, but I cannot use it to study heaven and hell. I cannot use it to study jinn and malaika. Likewise, theology is the study of things that Allah informed us about through nusus, through scripture, right? And these things are not something that we have access to. They're part of ilm al-ghayb. That's the point of nusus, to tell you about things that you cannot access. But theology also cannot overstep its borders. Theology doesn't tell us to believe in the periodic table or not. Theology doesn't tell us to, believe in dinosaurs or not, or believe in astronomy or not. It doesn't tell us. It gives us very general indications about the beauty of nature and so on and so forth. And it gives us certain events in the past where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did stuff in nature which does not conform to science. So I believe that you can call any theological paradigm that believes in miracles unscientific, not that it conflicts with science, because then it would be anti-scientific. It's unscientific in the sense that it is explaining things which science cannot address to begin with. It cannot address those things. So that's the answer to the first thing. So I hope that's clear. And as for the second question, how can we compromise with the fact that human populations occurred through evolution, and then you have Adamic exceptionism? This links to my point earlier. Adam and Eve are not scientific propositions. There's no scientific experiment for Adam and Eve. From a strictly scientific perspective, Adam and Eve don't exist. It's just genetics all the way back into history. That's it. What is the scientific test for Adam and Eve? Zero. Right? Zero. There's no scientific test for him. So when we say that we are committed to theologically, we have to understand that we are dealing with two different kinds of epistemologies and metaphysics here. Science is a study of regularity, both of things that are occurring today and in the past. And of course, there are going to be blind spots in there in the larger framework of theology. And so that's why I make it crystal clear that these positions, creationism, Adamic, these are theological positions. These are not necessarily scientific positions. In science, you just have one position, evolution. That's it. But there is no textbook on Adamic exceptionalism, human exceptionalism, or creationism. Those don't exist. So I'm saying, understand the framework of each domain, theology and science, and also understand the limits of each domain. And this is the point that I'm trying to articulate. Theology cannot dictate what is absent in scripture. Our theology doesn't tell us don't believe in quantum mechanics, don't believe in evolution. It doesn't come with those prescriptions. And neither does science, can it tell us anything about things that are beyond visibility. If we follow that, then we have to even reject God, because God does not exist scientifically. Right? That's scientism. When your only benchmark is science, that's scientism. As Muslims, we are not advocates of scientism. We are huge advocates of science, but scientism is an ideology, not a methodology. We have no problem supporting the method of science, but not the ideology of scientism. And that's what I try to show as carefully as I can through this book. I hope that addressed your questions, Sayyidi Nurudin.
Yes, thank you. Suhaib, thank you very much for a very large explanation on regarding the life and evolution. Yes, of course, tadi sudah dijelaskan bahwa dia sebenarnya ingin menjelaskan mengenai posisi apa yang dieksplorasi oleh Suhaib adalah ada gap ya, ada ketidaksamaan antara metodologi ketika kita berbicara mengenai agama. Tentu saja kita berbicara dengan yang gaib ya, yang itu tidak bisa diterima secara saintifik karena tidak bisa dibuktikan. Bagaimana kita misalnya melakukan studi mengenai setan atau mengenai malaikat, ya tidak bisa karena tidak lihat secara fisik. Kalau saintifik itu fisik juga, ya harus bisa dibuktikan walaupun dengan alat begitu ya. Jadi sehingga ada gap di sini antara pemahaman saintifik dan bagaimana kita melihat itu berdasarkan pendapat agama. Sementara agama sendiri tidak memberikan rumusan yang konkret mengenai hal-hal yang spesifik, sangat makro. Jadi ya agama memang menjelaskan mengenai bagaimana kita memikirkan penciptaan alam semesta, dan dikatakan bahwa apa-apa yang diciptakan oleh Allah itu ayat. Nafi khalqis samawati wa fil ardi wa tilafil laili wan nahari la ayatil ulil albab. I just say that everything that created by God is an ayat, a sign on earth. So we have many texts, many Quranic messages regarding afala tatafakkarun, afala tatazakkarun. Why don't you see? And we have also the creation that tend to teach us the similarity with nature and human themselves. Wama min dabbatin fil ardi wa tayrina yatiru bi janahaihi illa umamun amsalukum, which is similar as ummah like you. Bird is the same as like you. Even chimpanzee is related. It should be not problem. It should be accepted as companion together with human being. Jadi saya bilang bahwa apa yang dikatakan dalam Al-Quran itu sebenarnya burung-burung itu juga dikatakan umat sebagai ciptaan Tuhan yang sama halnya dengan sebagaimana manusia. Jadi sebenarnya betapa kedekatan dalam penciptaan itu kita juga sebenarnya mendapatkan kemudahan. Coba bayangkan kalau kemudian bahan yang diciptakan itu berbeda gitu ya, misalnya simpansi dari besi atau dari yang lain, bahan-bahan yang bukan genetik, yang organik. Kita tidak bisa melakukan studi mengenai manusia untuk instrumentasi di monyet misalnya, di primata. Hal yang sama dengan kita. Jadi ini sangat menarik apa yang dikatakan Sueb. Jadi memang ada yurisdiksi yang tidak bisa disambungkan begitu saja karena berbeda disiplin ilmu antara ilmu agama yang sangat umum dengan ilmu-ilmu saintifik, dan dia tidak melakukan justifikasi bahwa kita tidak harus percaya juga dengan sains secara keseluruhan. Karena tafsirul ilmi itu juga tidak bisa diterima karena sains itu akan berubah sesuai dengan fakta-fakta yang ditemukan. Jadi sangat dinamis gitu. So if one thing I should ask you maybe, there's a question regarding in our Khairil Jalaluddin. I believe that existence of Adam is miracle of the prophet, and I think human except Adam are the result of evolution. My question is, did Adam descendant marry the imperfect human?
Okay, so Brother Khairi, thank you very much for your question. So there are two answers here. As I said earlier, from a scientific viewpoint, Adam doesn't exist. We don't know Adam scientifically. Adam alayhi salam is a theological proposition. We only know about Adam alayhi salam because of Quran hadith. If that was never mentioned, we would never know about him. So that's the first thing. Now, from a theological point, and by theology in this entire presentation, I mean things you as a Muslim need to believe as part of your aqidah. Your aqidah will get you either into heaven or hellfire. That's aqidah. Those are the things you need to believe. From an aqidah perspective, from a theological angle, we as Muslims, they need to believe, if you're a Sunni or Shi'i Muslim, both of these camps, if you're Sunni or Shi'i, if you're others, then this may not apply to you. But if you're a Sunni or a Shi'i Muslim, you believe that Adam alayhi salam was a real person, Hawa alayhi salam was a real person, they were created miraculously, and all of us have a lineage back to them. Our lineage goes back to them. What happened in between? Theology has no answer. There could have been intermixing, or there could not have been. Adam's descendants could have married or could not have married. In Yawm al-Akhirah, it does not matter. If you want to believe it, great. If you don't want to believe it, khalas, no problem. Either way, this is the point of tawaqquf in my book, that you cannot make something a point of aqidah if nusus has nothing to say about it.
Yeah,
that's the key point. I hope that addressed your question, Brother Khairi. Do let me know, inshallah.
Yeah. This also as a question regarding if how is the origin of the species, it says all the makhluk hidup or the organism. There's a question regarding a very short question. How about the origin of life?
Oh, so okay. So the origin of life is the study of abiogenesis. And there's a lot of good work that has been done by biochemists, because in order to develop the first protein, the first cell, you need to have a lot of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen in the beginning. So how did that process start? Scientists are still looking into it. We still don't have an exact procedure of how it started, but developments have been made. There are a few good professors, particularly in the UK, that have done interesting works in this area, but that's not my point of discussion. For me, what matters is the theology, because what is a scientific discussion, I leave it to the scientists. Why do I care? As a Muslim, why do I care? Otherwise, I have to care about every scientific discovery, and I was not put on earth to look at science. I was on earth to worship Allah. So for me, I don't really care about the scientific details. What matters to me is what I need to believe for Yawm al-Akhirah. That's it. If in the Quran, again, just to link it back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say anything about asl haya. It says nothing about the origins of life. It could have a scientific process, could not have a scientific process. Both way, Allah did it. If it's a miracle, Allah did it. If He created through a scientific process, Allah did it. Maybe we could one day determine that process, maybe not. Wallahu a'lam. That's it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if you believe or not, it is not related to, daily prayer. You should believe with God, because the Yawm al-Akhirah. There's two things about physics and metaphysics, yeah? Physics and metaphysics. So metaphysically, we should believe all of the, it happened as miracle. One thing, Sueb, if I can ask, in Quran, there are some texts related the long process of the, for example, in Surah Sajdah, it said, "Yudabbiru amra minas samai wal ardi summa yakhruju ilayhi fi yawmin kanat miqdaruhu alfa sanatin," which is 1 days of you can become 1,000 days of you.
Yeah.
But malaika working only 1 day.
Yeah.
So what is the tafsir on this according to the ulama and the framework of evolution, perhaps?
So I think that this is just, if I remember correctly, it just shows that what is a time span for us may not be the same as the time span of these metaphysical entities like angels.
Right.
So what we experience as maybe something so long, for them it's just probably
so long.
Yeah. So I think that's just an indication of that.
So is it also a justification that because we don't know, when it start the creations, the numbers of the times we are not sure, right? So it's theoretical finding evidence.
Yeah.
Is that is that a justification also for us to understand that this is a metaphysical message, that this is unlimited time, because the time of, we
Yeah,
don't.
so I mean, there's even this understanding that perhaps Jannah and Jahannam, they don't have time, because there's one hadith which says that time, the representation of time, will be brought forward on the Day of Judgment in the form of a ram, and then that ram will be slaughtered. That's what the hadith says. And so, and if that's supposed to indicate that there's no time, everything is eternal at that point.
Yeah.
That you could suggest that perhaps even that reality in Yawm al-Akhirah, that reality doesn't have anything closely matching to what we experience here. That may be some indication. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you. Nurudin, you want to say something?
Yes, maybe I want to extend my question to Prof. Malik. You says that yes, there's some kind of a demarcation between science and philosophy or theology, and we can say that the atom is the field of philosophy or theology, because you can disprove or prove the Adamic existence. But what about the Muslim who, for example, who choose to believe in creationism? Creationism in that sense that all living being, man, human and animal, plant, and other thing, not undergo the process of evolution at all. So how can this theological view have a independent position, and at the same time in scientific world, there's a belief in evolution. So how can reconcile, for example, and human exceptionalism, who do not believe that all human evolve? How can reconcile this theological belief with evolution if we using the demarcation about the miracle and so on? What do you think?
For creationists, so I'm not saying this is what I adopt. I'm saying that this is what they say. Creationists, what they would say is, first of all, the theory is not strong, so we don't need to believe in evolution. So they throw doubt at the theory.
Mm-hmm.
They try to show you that the science is not clear, or the science is very weak. That's the first thing. The second thing they'll try and do and say is, it's an atheistic movement, and therefore we don't need to believe in it. So they make it sound like the theory of evolution is nothing but fiction. That's what they'll say. So there is no real conflict. The science itself is problematic. This is what most creationists that I've seen, what they would say. So they don't have any necessity on themselves to show any resolution or to show reconciliation, because for them, this is not even an option in their minds. It's not an option. Evolution is just a theory. That's it. So that's from their side. And as for the human exceptionists, as I stated earlier, they say that from a scientific viewpoint, evolution looks true. There's no problem with that. But when Homo sapiens or human beings were supposed to evolve into existence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created Adam alayhi salam at that point with all the right genetics, with all the right biology, so that it seems from a scientific angle, everything is complete. But from a theological angle, we know that this was a miracle. So they say you cannot disprove that scientifically, and they're correct. On this point, they're correct. How can you prove scientifically that never occurred, right? Because even the fossil record, when we look into the science in the past 7 million years of ashbah al-bashar, hominins that look like us, we don't have lots of skeletons. Not that we don't have no skeletons, but we don't have a lot of skeletons. So naturally, there's going to be some gaps from our side. Fossils in particular, they erode, they disappear over time, right? Bones, they crumble. So naturally that's a possibility from their perspective. So that's the answer to your second question. Now that you asked me something earlier about which position I adopt personally out of these three. So this is my honest position. I don't care. I don't care anymore. That's my honest position. The reason why I started it is because I thought this was a big thing for Muslims. Like it's either you be a scientist or you be a Muslim. I thought that was the problem with this entire field. It's not. It's now just, in my opinion, it's just a matter of people understanding their aqidah, their theology a bit better, and then use that to understand the conversation. Because if you really think that something is in conflict with science, that means you're saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said something in the Quran that does not match what it is in the real world. And if you are entertaining that, why do you stop at evolution? Why do you not have a committee for computers, for technology, for geography? We should have an Islamic society for everything, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's practically ridiculous, right? So I personally believe that what I think needs to happen is people need to study a little bit more theology to kind of understand the parameters. What are the parameters involved? Once those parameters are clear, khalas, then you can kind of navigate. So in my opinion, if you don't believe in evolution, khalas, be a creationist, okay? Scientifically, you may look very silly, but in Yawm al-Akhirah, you'll be fine. Yawm al-Qiyamah will be fine for you. Allah will not question you on that. Allah will not question you on the Day of Judgment for believing in dinosaurs or periodic table. That's not a point of aqidah, right? Same thing for human exceptionalism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not ask you, did you believe that no other human beings were created from atoms? Like
that's what will be not part of question in Akhirah, right?
Yeah, that's not something that you'll be questioned on. The key questions are, who is your God? Who is your prophet?
Yes.
What is your deen? Those are the questions. What did you do to good and bad? Those are the things that you'll be questioned about. If scripture is silent, don't make it into an issue. And it is for this reason, you may be asking why I defend creationism in the book. I criticize people who are creationists. I actually criticize their arguments, that their arguments are weak. But I still say theologically it's jaiz, it's possible, because the Quran does not rule it out. And if the Quran does not rule it out, I cannot say it's wrong. That's why. So that's why I said all is open. Believe what you want. If you're convinced by evolution, be a human or Adamic exceptionist. If you don't care about evolution, you don't want to believe in evolution, be a creationist. Khalas, salam, bye-bye.
Yes. But from your statement that if we believe in human exceptionalism, Adamic exceptionalism, we can somehow quote unquote there's no conflict between modern science. But if you believe in creationism, you must transgress the boundaries of
Sure.
Like that, what I mean.
Yeah, it depends on which vantage point. Like I said, the creationists, they fully believe that evolution is not true. They are convinced it's not true. So from their point, there's nothing to conflict. It's like you told me I believe in fairies. So it's just you just said something. It doesn't mean anything for them. So I agree with you that if you take the majority of the scientific, actually all the major establishments of science, they all believe in evolution. So from their point, creationists would look like an absurd position. But from the perspective of the creationists, evolution is absurd. So it just depends on which side of the coin you are.
Yeah, from the theological perspective, we always being asked for reflection. Afala tatafakkarun, afala tatazakkarun. Which ones, from your exploration, this evolution is having that kind of, afala tatafakkarun for the Muslim.
Yeah. I'd say so. Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to reflect. And I think that is a very strong motivation in doing science from our part.
Okay. I think the time is finished, and we thanks for your presentation, for your presence here to Indonesia. It's first time for us to invite you. Next time will be the second round, perhaps, to discuss regarding science and Islam and everything. Nurudin, Dr. Nurudin, thank you for your presence to this forum. And Bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu sekalian, terima kasih untuk kedatangannya dan mohon maaf tidak bisa mengakomodasi semua pertanyaan. Tapi ini menjadi sebuah bahan buat kita untuk refleksi dan memahami mengenai dinamika ilmu pengetahuan, di mana pengetahuan ini berlaku secara dinamis dan kita tahu bahwa perdebatan evolusi ini panjang sekali sejak mungkin tahun 80-an sudah ada. Kita tahu dulu ada beberapa buku yang terkait dengan evolusi dan Islam. Dan kita mengambil hikmah tentunya dari ini. Dan tadi kita diminta memilih. Ada yang menanyakan tadi bagaimana sebenarnya posisi kita. Kita diminta memilih. Bisa percaya, bisa tidak. Ini karena kan sains. Tetapi yang penting harus kita pertahankan adalah akidah kita bahwa Tuhan menciptakan manusia sebagai khalifah di muka bumi, tetapi Dia juga menciptakan yang lain. Dan untuk memahami itu kita perlu sains yang memahami tentang what as it is, bagaimana adanya. Jadi di mana ilmuwan itu kan mengeksplorasi, kita terbantu juga mengenai eksplorasi berkaitan dengan evolusi ini, kita bisa memahami bagaimana kondisi bumi kita. Jadi saya kira kita harus paham bahwa secara biogeografi binatang-binatang yang ada di Sulawesi itu misalnya, itu adalah perpaduan antara bagian timur Indonesia dan bagian barat Indonesia. We have a laboratorium, the natural laboratorium in Sulawesi, which is 50 million years evolution. Well, that is why the Wallacea being have a virtual line of Wallace, because it's a mixing between eastern part animal and western part animal. So we have 7 species of macaque instead only just one or two macaque in the western Indonesia. In that area we have 7 species of macaque. Black one with short tail with web in hand, because of the process of evolution, they are maybe swimming sometimes, which is remarkable for us to reflect as scientists. This is very interesting to discuss, of course, as one of the ayah, because God is created all of that. Thank you, Soeb. If you have the last word to say, please.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for listening to me and giving me the opportunity to present my case. Particular thanks to Brother Fachruddin for inviting me. It was really a privilege to be here. And I would like to say that, again, I'm aware that this is a very sensitive conversation. I'm sorry if I offended anyone here. This is a conversation that will have sensitivities. So please do forgive me. If you found anything good, it's from Allah. Any mistakes were from me. So please do forgive your brother in faith, inshallah. And I hope to see all of you again, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Nurudin?
Yes.
Yes,
thank you, Pak Fachruddin. Maybe the first, I'm very happy to meet Professor Soeb Ahmad Malik. Very interesting discussion, I think. And I think the discussion like this should be encouraged. Yeah, the people can accept evolution or reject, or there can be many options. Yeah, but I think that must be done. Yeah, is we can discuss it with friendly and I think warm atmosphere. Yeah. I think this is very important. Yeah, I think so. Even this is according to Prof. Malik, this is a sensitive issue, but if we can talk it with a warm and friendly atmosphere, we can, we can have a great dialogue with the creationists or with the human exceptionalists, with Adamic exceptionalists, with atheists, with Darwinists, with with four horsemen maybe. Thank you very much.
Oke, terima kasih semuanya. Thank you very much for all the attendance, all the participant. Sampai jumpa lagi kapan-kapan kita ada series seminar. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mohon izin, left.